The broadcast is now starting.
All right,
All attendees are
good
in
morning,
listen-only
everyone.
mode.
Excuse me. This is Andrew Zimmerman, lead meteorologist with the National Weather Service in Wakefield, here for our Thursday weekly briefing. So we'll go ahead and get started here. Now that we're at 11 o'clock. Kind of looking at the weather to start the day. Looking at the visible satellite image here, we've got you see cloud cover offshore that was associated with a cold front that moved through overnight. And we got colder air moving into our region. Temperatures pretty much holding in the 30s late this morning, and really probably won't see much change through the day as we see breezy conditions as that cold air moves into the region throughout the day today. In this area of high pressure that's well off to our southwest, that'll just kind of gradually build in and south of our area overnight into the day Friday. If we kind of sort of pan out, look a little broader picture here, I kind of sometimes like to show water vapor satellite imagery. Water vapor satellite imagery is a good way to kind of look at upper level jet stream patterns. I have some model analysis overlaid here, so maybe getting into a little deeper meteorology here. But we have this cold upper trough that's kind of over the eastern Great Lakes. It's really pushed down into the southeast and southern mid-Atlantic. And we can kind of see these kind of whiter colors here, kind of indicative of some upper level impulses. And the main point I want to get to here is you see these different impulses of energy here. They're just going to act to kind of reinforce that upper trough, really kind of over the eastern U.S. for the next week here. So digging into some of our highlights here as we move through the next week here, we're really going to see the colder air just continues to reinforce today. We see some west and northwest winds gusting to 30 to 35 miles per hour. We will see the wind kind of settle down tonight, but we're going to but we'll still have a little bit of breeze to start the day tomorrow. So we're going to see low temperatures dropping well down into the 20s tonight into early Friday morning. So we could see some wind chill values in the teens to start the day tomorrow. So fairly chilly to start the day Friday, and really only seeing highs getting recovering into the lower to mid 40s by Friday afternoon. Saturday, it does look like we kind of see a little bit of a warm up ahead of the next cold front. It does look like we'll see highs generally kind of in the lower to mid 50s, maybe some upper 50s, kind of as we get into far southeast Virginia and northeast North Carolina. Saturday, generally kind of 40s, kind of in the Piedmont regions, northwest of Richmond. But there is a little with that as that next system kind of clips our area early Saturday. That means there's a chance for some light showers, mainly across the Piedmont. Could see a brief rain snow mix with some of that Saturday, but that's not looking very impactful. Kind of the main thing we're looking at here is low pressure developing offshore on Sunday, bringing a potential for some snow. There's still a lot of uncertainty with that. We'll try and get into some of those details here in a bit. But then after that, as we get into early part of next week, there's another surge of Arctic air, kind of as I was mentioning there, as that upper trough continues to get reinforced over the east coast. It does look like we'll have some rather cold air come in. I was just looking at some of the long range data. Potentially could see temperatures 15 to 20 degrees below normal as we get into the day Tuesday. That would roughly result in the high temperatures kind of in the 30 to 35 range. So it could be rather cold as we get into early part of next week. On the marine side of things, with the strong cold air advection, we're going to have high-end small craft conditions and then low-end gale conditions, kind of our northern coastal waters as kind of today through Friday morning. And then with a trough over the east and an active pattern, we're going to see other opportunities for hazardous marine conditions as we go through the weekend. And we could see could see some low water conditions in parts of lower Chesapeake Bay and James River later Friday into Saturday. That offshore wind kind of pushing some water levels lower. So those particularly more for the marine interest. But they're kind of looking at the surface charts there. It just kind of tells a rough story of what we're looking at there as we move through the week, end of the week, into the weekend and next week. That system kind of goes to our northwest Saturday, maybe kind of clips us. We got the low offshore Sunday, and then we got the colder air coming in as we get into early next week. Overall, as we do have a potential for some snow in there, but overall our overall liquid equivalent amounts really going to be quite light over the next week. Not looking at a whole lot of liquid to add to our ongoing drought conditions. This is kind of a broad probability of 1 inch or more snow for Sunday. This is looking at a bunch of model and ensemble data kind of all blended together to generate some probabilities. You blend everything together using the overnight data, gives us a roughly about 30 to 40% chance of at least 1 inch of snow kind of across South Central, Southeast Virginia, Northeast North Carolina. Other places around 20 to 30% of at least getting an inch of snow. There's still a lot of uncertainty. So definitely keep up with the latest forecast. And given that uncertainty, we do plan to do another live briefing at 11 a.m. tomorrow morning. But looking at this in a little more detail, trying to figure out the best way to show this. I generally like this four panel plot here. The only problem is the GFS ensemble data has some plotting issues along the coast. I was almost hesitant to use it because of that, but I still think this kind of tells the story. If we look at the upper left here, this is the GFS ensemble data. Basically, over the past few days, the GFS ensemble data has had a little more of an inland track, has had higher snow amounts. And again, we're looking at a probability of at least 1 inch or more of snow. So upper left is the GFS ensemble. If we looking at the screen, the upper right, that's a European ensemble. You see the probabilities are a little lower. They're a little more concentrated toward the coast. If we look at the lower left, that's the Canadian ensemble. That generally has lower probabilities overall. And then you see our lower right there, the previous image we just showed, blending everything together. Now, just before I went live here on the briefing, what we would call the 12Z or the day cycle of the GFS is just starting to come in. Is just kind of reaching that time, that Sunday night time frame. So at first glance of that, it is starting to show a little bit of that weaker, more offshore solution that's closer to what the European model and European ensembles have showed over the past few days. So at first glance, the latest cycle of the GFS is trending toward lighter snow amounts and toward the coast more. But one point I also want to kind of bring in here. I did mention earlier on that we're going to see highs kind of generally in the 50s on Saturday. So we will be dealing with some warmer ground when any snowfall comes in. So that's one thing to keep in mind there. But again, given this uncertainty, we do plan to come on for a live briefing tomorrow. Hopefully 24 hours from now, we can get a little better detail. Maybe even this afternoon, when we update our briefing this afternoon, we may have some more detail in there from the day cycle of the latest model data. So kind of moving back, looking ahead at some other things here. There you can kind of see the temperature summary. You see kind of Saturday stands out as our warmer day, and then we trend colder as we get into next week. There we can see maybe highs just generally 30 to 35 by next Tuesday. But outside of Sunday, we're looking at pretty low precipitation chances. 6 to 10 day outlook here, heading toward like January, 20th through 24th, kind of heading toward that fourth weekend in January. Still looking at below normal temperatures on average. Some of the long range data does kind of show a moderating trend around the 23rd to 25th of January before colder air comes back to close out the month of January. But overall, on average, looking below normal. And precipitation wise, it's kind of near to slightly above normal, but that's kind of maybe looking out a little more in the 6 to 10 day period rather than the next 7 days should generally be below normal. There's our latest drought monitor. Kind of the central Virginia is still in D0, but we can see some expansion of some D1 and D2, especially as we get out and into the Piedmont and kind of interior portions of Northeast North Carolina. So something to keep in mind here. Obviously, we're in the middle of January, not real like heavy evapotranspiration or anything, but as something to keep in mind as we move forward the next couple months. If we don't see appreciable rainfall, this is going to be something that could become a little more problematic as we approach spring. There's our gale warning there, kind of north of Wachapreague / Paramore Island on the Virginia Eastern Shore there. Gale warning, small craft advisories elsewhere. Generally looking at primarily like this evening through Friday morning for the strongest wind. There's our marine probabilities, pretty high confidence of exceeding 25 knots, and then the highest, again, kind of the northern coast, our local northern coastal waters have the highest probabilities of 34 knots. But again, as I mentioned earlier, with that trough staying in, it looks like hazardous marine conditions looks like they'll likely persist at times through the weekend. There's our peak wind gusts, generally kind of looking around 30 knots for most of the area, up around 35, maybe a few spots approaching 40 knots out closer to 20 nautical miles off the Maryland coast as we get into tonight, early Friday morning. Wave heights generally 3 to 4 feet. Chesapeake Bay, 5 to 7 feet in the coastal waters, again with highest offshore with the offshore wind. And again, we will likely be emailing our briefing out again tomorrow morning, and then want to kind of put it in summary there. We do plan to have another live briefing at 11 a.m. Friday morning at the same link. So with that, I will go ahead and take any questions anyone may have. Feel free to drop them in the chat. But again, kind of in summary here, generally looking at below normal temperatures through the next week, and then there's that snow chance on Sunday. A lot of uncertainty at this point, but hopefully as we get maybe this afternoon into tomorrow, should try to get some maybe more details and a little bit higher confidence. So I will be happy to take any questions, and I thank you all for joining us today.